Growing up in Lagos, even then we had fashion. We were always flamboyant. It was so good at that time.
As a child, growing up in the 80s in Nigeria, you see people, beautifully dressed out in ashoke attires, in adire, and they do it in modern ways. They don't just use it in the traditional format, they make it very fashionable.
Ashoke, okene weave, we drape it in different ways. Even in England, where I was taught, I told them I would work on my Nigerian fabric. I use it even for wedding dress. My niece's wedding dress was ashoke. We call it full, white. I wanted to really ram it down their throat.
When you look at Nigeria and even Africa, there are a lot of indigenous fabrics. So, like in the East, they have akwete.
Akwete didn't do well in kaftan, but it did well in skirt and top.
Nigerians were more into brocades. These Guinea brocades, we had this fashion from Guinea that was just sweeping through Nigeria. Everybody wanted to wear brocade, bubus and kaftans, men and women.
Kaftan of different types. It may be in Ankara, it may be in Adire, it may be in Ashoke, but it's kaftan.
When the Ghanaians started making a lot of noise about kente in America, I think that was a turning point for Nigerians. Oh, if these guys are doing that, what are we doing with our ashoke, Ibira fabric, Akwete, and all that? And that was when Nigerian designers started waking up.
Ashoke and Adire are now a big deal. And I love the fact that it's ours, it's from us. It's just amazing to see that it has come back.
No matter how much we are advancing as people, we still draw our influence from the past. We still draw our influence from the people that came before us and how they've made all of these things.
The difference now is us, the younger generation, we're owning it more and telling our own stories. So I wouldn't necessarily call it a return. Lagos before, I think, our style, our sense of style was there, but it was almost quiet, or it was, the post-colonial era, like after the 1950s, it was quiet, but it was there. You knew that people were stylish. You could see this in the tailor-cut suits. You could see this in kind of geles they were wearing as crowns, etc. But now it's almost like, okay, you know that about us. Now we're showing you, and we're being more intentional. We're being more proud of our pieces.
So we started sewing things with these fabrics so that people can see what can be done with these fabrics. And then at a point in time, like in the 90s, we started seeing evolution where people started thinking about this Ashwebi thing. The Ashwebi culture came into being, and lace was the thing then.
So there was a time Wonyosi in the 80s was very fashionable. And I remember my parents wearing it and their friends and them going to parties with beautiful, delicate lace that had flowers on them. And apparently it was very expensive. It was the equivalent of 100 naira a yard in the 80s.
Lagos and lace, like everyone wore laces, like everyone. I think there were the heavy ones that were like gupio-like. That was pretty popular. I think my mom wore a lot of those when she was young, in her 20s. We now had the Swiss laces, and then the bit of polyester started coming in. Then we had the very sheer ones that Igbo guys will also make and have their singlets under. But lace, it was lace upon lace.
And then when it started becoming expensive in the late 90s and getting into the millennium, and then people started thinking about, okay, it's too expensive now.
Women were buying lace at such high amount of money. Most of them were going into debt, buying lace.
But people still needed to do the Ashwebi because the Ashwebi culture has actually changed fashion in so many ways. So they decided to resort to Ankara fabrics.
We also were getting boxed into Nigerian fabric being Ankara and lace, which is not even original.
I remember how shocked I was when I realized Ankara wasn't ours, that it came from Europe. I'm like, what the?
The original fabrics are some of the woven cloths like akwete, ashoke, and then the way we dye.
But it's just because of what we've done with it in terms of the ashemi, and that makes it seem like it's ours.
And then another fabric I remember my parents wearing also in the 80s was a fabric, it was just called silk. And it was so beautiful. It was silk, like today. There was nothing on it. It was just the beauty of the fabric.
In the 90s, I mean, I loved the 90s because we had this hip hop culture for young people, and it was everything. If you didn't dress like a hip hop head, you were a nobody. You just had to have your crop tops, your baggies, all those stuff.
There were the shirts, there were like Tommy Hilfiger shirts that were very colorful, that too came into play. I think that was the beginning of Nigerians and brands. Brands became a huge focus thing in Nigeria.
So in the 2000s, permit me to say, maybe it's because of my age, but I don't think there was that much of a focus on the Nigerian Lagos-based designers. Yes, we were names we knew, the Ade Bakares, and there were some Nidiola Sego that stood out. But for us youngins, we were shopping at, there's a place called LOP, Land of Plenty, and we were going there to buy jerseys and things that we saw abroad, as opposed to now in what year are we in, 2025, and we're wearing our own clothes, telling our own stories through our own clothes. So there's been a bit of a shift with Nigerian fashion taking more prominence.
I love my hip hop culture, but it almost took away our culture. And even the music videos like P-Square, Two-Face, you didn't see anybody rocking Nigerian clothing. You only saw who we were at our Owambes. It's as though your culture only needed to come out when you were having a party that had to do with your family.
The ashoke is mostly worn now for traditional wedding. The bride, the groom, and the parents of the bride and the groom.
The most that young people, young cheeky people will do will be maybe oleku. Oleku is like half 3/4 hand and 3/4 skirt. I mean, now we would make it very short, but I think it was 3/4 then. I think that was what it was.
In the 80s, a lot of our trends also came from album covers. And we were always enthralled with what the artists were wearing.
In the 90s and the early 2000s, there was City People and Encomium. That's where we used to get the fashion from. The elites were the people on the cover. So at this time, we didn't have no social media. We didn't have all these streaming platforms. We weren't even exposed to like YouTube. So then to get the fashion, that's where you get it from.
2000, 2001 then. Guys used to do a lot of Timberland boots, you know. We used to do a lot of Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger. Those were the trends then. And I remember then we had the crazy jeans for guys and all of that. But the interesting thing is, thinking about it now, you see that fashion practically evolves.
What Nigerian designers are doing now, especially with the beaders and all those things, is on another level. Nigeria, Lagos especially, is the hub for fashion in the whole of Africa.
For example, I'm wearing a tailored suit right now, but it's an Ankara tailored suit. So it still has the influence of the Western world, but it has been brought and localized our own way.
Now we do a lot of styles, a lot of dresses, mostly two pieces, a lot of corsets, which our moms didn't used to do.
So the culture is the culture. It's just how we've modernized it a bit. So it's still the same. Because the gele tying then was not symmetrical. Now it's a whole mathematics and physics. Like I saw one guy do a gele, I'm like,
When I think of Owambe gele artistry in Lagos, the first thing that comes to my head is go big or go home. You have to top the charts.
Over the decades, the relationship with hair, I feel, has been a very interesting love-hate, confused, not really relationship.
Our hairs were sewings, extensions, braids.
There was a time where we were showing our African hair a lot, African styles, threading, weaving, cornrows, etc.
In the mid-80s, the Grace Jones hair look was very fashionable. And a few people had that on, so it was short back and sides. and then a bit of full hair. And that came from her album Clubbing. It was on her album. I still remember Iconic with a cigarette in her mouth. Very angular, very sharp. So even I adopted that hairstyle. And I still have a bit of that till today.
And then the era of the wigs and the frontals and the desire to have more Western looking hair, softer hair, longer hair.
Our era birthed the whole idea of human hair.
Now, speaking from 2025, it's a middle ground. So there's people who are still into the Western looking hair. There are people who still want the African looking hair. And then there are women like me who are stuck in the middle, depending on the day, the month, when you catch us.
Where we are now in fashion, I think Lagos fashion is very swaggy.
Lagos is a blend of Malawi, Nairobi, China, you know, everywhere.
It's vibrant, it's very bold, it's confident, it's irreplaceable. You can't replicate it anywhere else.
Lagos fashion, very dynamic, very international.
Yeah. Lagos fashion, it's eclectic because it's interesting. It's a combination of everything.
Lagos is the future of fashion.
Echo for sure.